Okay, so welcome everybody to today's presentation. Just a couple of housekeeping things as we get started. If you could just put yourselves on mute as the presentation is going on, and then feel free, you can unmute yourself and ask any questions that you have, or if you feel more comfortable and want to use the text chat, you can do that, and I'll watch for those questions, and I'll let Karin know that they're there, and I'll read them to her. So I am going to welcome our guest speaker, Karin Goldgruber. Am I saying it right? I'm sorry.
Yes, you are.
Okay, and I'm going to do an introduction. So 1 second here. Okay, so Karin Goldgruber is a coach and certified EFT emotional freedom techniques practitioner. She helps highly sensitive business women from around the world to reduce stress, overwhelm, as well as frequent internal and external overstimulation so that they can take care of their business. As a highly sensitive businesswoman herself, Karin is passionate about supporting other women in business through one-on-one coaching sessions, seminars, and presentations. In her courses, Karin teaches how to identify, reduce, and remove negative limiting core beliefs around business, relationships, and high sensitivity. This enables her clients to overcome blocks as well as to increase consistency and focus in their business. Karin also offers weekly complimentary group coaching sessions for business owners to learn about high sensitivity, reduce worries, fears, and overwhelm about business. So welcome, Karin.
Thank you, Laurie. I'm so excited to be here today and to speak about am I a highly sensitive person? And it's really important in business to know if you are a highly sensitive person and how it can affect your business. And the term highly sensitive person seeks to describe individuals who perceive stimuli more deeply than the average person. So other qualities or experiences related to high sensitive people are cognitive, very deep cognitive processing, overstimulation, empathy, and emotional overstimulation. So the acronym is HSP, and I will use that throughout the presentation. So it refers to someone with a sensory processing sensitivity. A sensory processing sensitivity is an inborn trait, so something that you're born with. And it means that we process how we experience the world through all our senses, sound, sight, touch, smell, and taste more intensely. So as we experience everything much stronger, it affects our daily lives and also our business. Some fun facts about HSPs. Most people would assume it's just women, but it's of course men and women are born with this innate trait. And 15 to 20% of the population are highly sensitive people. Many people automatically assume if you're an HSP that you are shy and that you're introverted. Actually, about 70% of HSPs are introverted and 30% are extroverted. I'm, for example, an extroverted HSP. So sometimes when you don't know that you're an HSP and an extrovert, you can get quite confused about that. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on. So, depth of processing. Actually, I'm gonna put a link in the chat as well, which I can't access right now, so I'll have to do that after. I have on my website a coaching compatibility questionnaire where you can answer some questions to find out if you are a highly sensitive business person as well. And just even if you find out today that you are not a highly sensitive person in business, it will help you because chances are that a family member, a friend, a partner, or a business owner, a client, or a coworker or a staff member is a highly sensitive person. And knowing a little bit more about this innate trait will help you to relate better to yourself or them. So there are 4 areas of the sensory processing sensitivity that I'm going to talk about. And as I'm speaking, I want you to think a little bit about your past, about your present, and see if any of the things that I say, if they're resonating with you. So depth of processing is the first part of being a highly sensitive person. So do you like and need lots of information before you can buy new products or equipment, for example, for your business? Do you think deeply about things and what clients or employees or businesses, so to say, are saying? And do you sometimes, like 3-4 days later, still think about a conversation and dissect it? Do you need longer to make decisions like hiring someone, firing somebody, a change of directions in your business, advertising, promotions, or even a social media posts? Those maybe some indicators that you are a highly sensitive person. Highly sensitive people are easily overstimulated by inside or outside sources. Have you noticed that you feel uncomfortable with longer, bigger meetings that are noisy and lots of people? Maybe you don't like sudden changes in your agenda, schedule, plans, or routines, and it really throws you off if there's something last minute that is changed. You may be a highly sensitive person if you know that the importance of trade shows and networking events, but you still don't like going and you have to force yourself to go because it just seems too much sometimes. The third quality of a highly sensitive person is greater emotional reactivity and empathy. And this emotional reactivity that is for positive and negative stimuli, which so do you take feedback and criticism very personal? Have you been told that you're too sensitive, or maybe you feel too emotional and not tough enough for business? Maybe people have told you many times, oh, you need to grow a thicker skin. I didn't mean it like that. It was just a joke, but for you, it was very personal. Have you noticed that you often overreact because you're overwhelmed and stressed, and that you seem more stressed about little things than some other people? Highly sensitive people are more aware of subtle stimuli, and we have different neurobiological filters. Imagine adhesive, which is very, very tight, versus a pasta strainer. So a pasta strainer, lots of things can go through. You may notice subtleties in body language, tone of voice, facial expressions, inner and out, and also in your inner environment, how you feel when things are going on. You may be the one in your company, in your business, that notices all the tiny mistakes. Something comes back from the printer, you read it through, and you notice 5 or 6 mistakes that 3 people who proofread it didn't see. You may notice problems in a suggested course of action that nobody else notices. And you may experience, have a difficulty to tune out white noise. So highly sensitive people are more responsive to their environment. They have a greater responsiveness to positive and negative, which really facilitates this depth of processing. And highly sensitive people are reward oriented. They're going for stuff, which is great when you're in business, because it often means you're very self-motivated and you're focused on your goals. There's also a differential susceptibility. I always have a hard word with time with that word. Susceptibility, and it's good news because in a good environment, growing up as an HSP means that you are functioning as well, or in many ways better than other adults that are not HSPs. It means that you can become stronger and more resilient. If you grew up in a not so supportive environment, don't worry about it. HSPs can change and react really good to intervention, like going to a therapist or other things. So HSPs may take longer to recover from certain things, but their improvements are much deeper. And this is all due to the deeper processing, which takes more time and more energy. HSPs have this do it once and do it right strategy. So they reflect, then they react, and then they act. There's another strategy that most of the society goes for is go for it. If wrong, go for it again. So this is a really good mix that we have in our society. HSPs that observe and then take action, and the go-getters that just go ahead and do things. So I'm just curious if some of those points sound familiar to anyone in the group. If you'd like to make a note in the chat, and then Lori can let us know. So we have those 4 points, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about them. A big thing for highly sensitive people is overstimulation. That's the one negative, really. And how do we deal with this overstimulation of the nervous system? How can we have a regulated nervous system? And how does it look if you, as an HSP, have a regulated nervous system? If you're calm, if you're not stressed, you are very perceptive, you're sensitive, you can be emotional and intuitive. However, if you are overwhelmed and overstimulated, then you are overthinking, you're overwhelmed, you're over worry, and you overreact. And when we are in this, when we're there, we can't really think logically. Let's look a little bit deeper about the 4 parts of being an HSP. Depth of processing is wonderful when you're in business because you can notice patterns, dig in lots of data. You automatically start thinking about it, analyzing it. These HSPs have a very deep curiosity, and they analyze the collected information, and they often notice trends very early. They notice flaws and mistakes in structures or in procedures in business, which can save you lots of money. And they also notice patterns in sales, notice patterns in clients and in staff as well. But if you're not regulated, this depth of processing can lead to overthinking. Overthinking can create worry, fear, and hesitation in your business. And you may have hesitated and lost a couple opportunities. Or if you're overthinking, you might be so vigilant and so afraid to make mistakes that you are stressed, you're worried all the time, and waste lots of time on worrying instead of doing things. Worry and fear can also lead to insecurity. If you have lost opportunities because of this, you may feel self-doubt, and you might be your worst critic. So the next one is overstimulation. HSPs usually feel more comfortable in smaller groups than in larger groups. HSPs are known to perform worse when doing a task in front of others than when doing it on your own. You might have practiced for a presentation, knew everything, and then you're there and you can't say one important word. So HSPs also enjoy working on their own. They need often frequent breaks, a little bit silence to be so the nervous system is calm again. And you have maybe noticed that you're easily rattled when something unexpected comes up in a meeting. If you ask a question that you didn't anticipate, and then you're like, what do I say? And then after the meeting, you're like, yeah, I should have said this and this. This is how I usually react when somebody asks me if I speak French. And I started saying, I speak French, but with a 30-minute delay. So overstimulation can be from different things that are happening in our life. It creates frequent stress. And when we are overwhelmed, then everything seems too much, and then we often feel too sensitive. Resulting feelings of always being overstimulated and too much is going on. And if you're not an HSP Imagine your house, and you have something is cooking on the stove, so you can smell everything. The fan is going on in the kitchen. Somebody is using the blender. Maybe somebody is vacuuming. Your kids are talking with you. The phone is ringing, and everything is loud. Like all your senses are overstimulated because so much is going on. And this is how it can feel as a life as a sensitive person. So, and because HSPs are able to notice everything that's going on in their environment, of course, they notice and compare themselves with others. They are often their worst critic. They often feel insecure because they notice that they're different, that they're having a harder time with certain things. Then often they tend to isolate themselves to avoid this overstimulation. And short breaks are really important as an HSP, but isolation is not good because often this leads to self-isolation, which can be very damaging for business. If you're not going to any trade shows, if you're not going to networking meetings, if you're not taking any courses for professional advancement, this can be very bad for your business. So this can often lead to frustration and anger, and those feelings are often suppressed because you don't want to be the emotional one, the one that is too sensitive. However, when you are taking care of overstimulation, as an HSP, we are really, really good at out-of-the-box thinking. Many HSPs, many of my clients are multi-passionate. They are interested in so many fields, and they're so knowledgeable, and they are able to pull information from different fields together and create amazing products, amazing solutions for their business. Many HSPs are very creative. And so when you're not overstimulated, you're really stepping into those strengths. And there's emotional reactivity and empathy. So when our senses are overstimulated, then we can emotionally overreact as an HSP, which is not really good in business. When we are calm and collected and stress-free, then we are able to connect easily with other people. Empathy is, of course, very good when you're dealing with business clients, business associates, or with your staff. However, if we're overstimulated and stressed, we experience a lack of empathy. There's no sense of humor. My kids, when they were little, they actually picked up on that really quickly. They would say danger level 1 when mom was hungry. Danger level was 2, mom is hungry and tired. And danger level 3, mom is hungry, tired, and cold. And my senses were just too overwhelmed with those things. So I always knew that I had to eat regularly, make sure that I'm not tired and cold. So as an HSP, everything is experienced much deeper. If you're sad, it's really sad. If you're happy, you're so joyful and overwhelmed, and it feels like this up and down, which can be exhausting sometimes. It feels like a roller coaster ride of feelings. A good thing here is, as HSPs are also very good at picking up other people's emotions, when you, let's say you're walking in the room, you're joyful and happy, and suddenly you feel frustrated and angry, and you're just like, oh, wow, what's going on? Ask yourself, whose feelings are those? Are they my feelings, or are they somebody else's feelings? Precise language and communication is very important for HSPs as well. And they really value a harmonious work environment. And this is often the reason why highly sensitive people choose to be in business on their own, so they can create the environment that is most supportive of them. There's 2 strategies that HSPs use with their feelings, either to suppress their feelings in order to fit in with everybody else. And that goes really well for a while, but you can just suppress and suppress strong feelings for a while. Then comes the famous last drop, and you just overreact, and everybody is saying, oh, you're just too emotional, you're too sensitive. Or the other tactic that HSPs sometimes use is, and this is often subconscious and starts in early childhood, is to exaggerate feelings in an attempt for other people to understand you better. And I always compare this to when I speak with somebody and they notice that I don't understand them, because English is my second language, they hear my accent, they start speaking louder with me. Just saying a word louder to me still won't make me understand the word. And that's what HSPs do as well. They exaggerate their feelings. They want to be understood when the other person doesn't understand their feelings when they're at a normal or a different level. One thing that is really important to remember when you're thinking of highly sensitive people and sensitivity is really a scale. Everyone is sensitive. We are just on different parts on the scale. Doesn't make anybody better or worse being an HSP or not having this inborn trait. It's just a difference. Then the fourth one is perception of stimuli, sensing the subtle. And I mentioned that already before, that HSPs are able to pick up on other people's feelings, have a very good intuition, and it is very good, and awareness is helpful on what is going on in your environment and with the people that you're dealing with. But an alertness that often happens for HSPs can be very draining. Being an HSP can really complicate being in business, but it is also a big strength in business, and being aware of it and knowing that you are an HSP will change how you schedule your business, how you do things. HSPs often know what needs to be changed in a meeting so others feel more comfortable. HSP can create the energy in a room. Like I can walk into our business and I know if my partner and our business partner had an argument. I just feel it. So we are often overstimulated by our environment, but then also we have empathy for our clients, staff, and business partners. And this is very helpful in business and creating a very deep connection in business. I'm just curious, so far, does anyone suspect that you are an HSP, or if your partner, family member, or a client or staff member is an HSP? And are there any questions so far?
We do have a couple of comments in the chat.
Okay, great.
From your question earlier, and Jessica said yes. Tracy said I'm definitely a HSP in combination with ADHD. Tamara said it sounded like her as well, and Jessica 1000% me, and Nicole said yes.
Okay, great. And if you have any other questions, please put them in the chat. And Lori, you can interrupt me anytime when you want to share some questions. Okay. Oh, one more question. Was anyone aware before of being an HSP, or suspected it, or just thought, oh, I'm just different?
Nicole said yes. I am empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And Jessica said very aware.
Okay, awesome. Good, then let's continue. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. So when we are stressed and overwhelmed, there are some automatic responses. And those automatic responses really happen automatically. Our body just takes over when we are stressed, when our body thinks we're in danger, when our body thinks we are dying or in grave need of help. It in a split second goes into fight, flight, or freeze response. And when this happens, when our body thinks, oh, you know, bear is after us, it's going to kill us. And the body doesn't know, for example, that you're just stressed because you're about to do a presentation. It just knows, okay, the blood pressure is going up and things like that. So when we go into fight and flight and freeze response, the frontal cortex, the younger part of our brain, is basically shut off, because we don't need empathy, we don't need humor, we don't need logical thinking when we are running for our life, when a bear is chasing us. However, if you are in a meeting and suddenly you're so stressed that you go into fight response and you start to argue with your business partner or with a client, that's not very good. It's not good if you are so stressed and overwhelmed and overstimulated in a meeting with a potential client, and suddenly you walk away, you flee because your senses are so overwhelmed. So, because the flight response helps us to get out of uncomfortable situations and feelings. Some people just freeze. You may be doing a presentation, a really important presentation, and suddenly get so overstimulated by the environment. Maybe somebody looks at you like really, what you consider like this, frowning. I remember doing a presentation one, and I had one lady and she kept looking at me like this. And I'm like, oh my God. And I got really nervous. And then afterwards, she came up to me and she said, oh my God, I loved the presentation. It was so exciting. And I'm like, wow, your face certainly didn't show it. So since then, I'm always a little bit more aware of how people look at me, and I remember that story. But when you notice that you are automatically going into fight, flight, or freeze response, there's a couple of things that you can do. Let's say you're in a meeting and you know that you can sit like this and just rub lightly here. There's an acupressure point here. And if you'd like to do that and observe how your body is reacting as you're doing those things that I'm about to show you, that would be awesome. You can rub the side of your eye. Nobody's going to think about that. Or just put your hand here on your collarbone. Notice what happens. My body just took a deeper breath, calmed down a little bit. You can, if you're somewhere where you can hold your wrist, you can hold your wrist, or holding your fingers like this. Tapping on the side of your fingers is one of my favorites. You can do it wherever you are when you're feeling overstimulated or overwhelmed. If you're driving, you can tap on the side of your knee, or you can also tap on your collarbone. If you really need to walk away, or if you're so overstimulated, you can go to the washroom, just stand there and tap on your collarbone. What you're doing is you're sending calming signals to your body, helps you get out of the fight-flight response, turns the frontal cortex on again, and you can function well again. Did anybody notice anything if you were doing those things with me? And I talk about simple solutions for stress, more about in one of my webinars, which is called Simple Steps to Reduce Stress. Often,
sorry, I was just going to say there was a couple. Tara
yes,
said
please.
It was very calming, and Jessica said I was surprised that I already do a lot of these.
Oh, nice. That's wonderful. And those are really simple things that you can do anytime. Nobody is going to notice, but it's really helping you. And even if you have a busy day and you get overstimulated by preparing something, take a couple minutes just to tap, and you'll notice that you'll calm down. Your brain is online again, and you'll notice that you will be more focused and better to deal with whatever challenges are coming up throughout the day. There are some other responses that we have to overstimulation and responses to being an HSP, that how to deal with this. There's perfectionism, but sometimes it takes too long, and sometimes we are not agile enough in our business. Overworking is one of the things that HSPs really like to do, and then we slip into burnout really quickly. Not accepting help is really bad in business, because sometimes, oh, it takes much longer to show somebody how to do it. If I do it on my own, I'll be faster and I won't be interrupted with the hundreds of the questions. But that can be alienating to business partners and our staff. Often HSPs are not willing to delegate, which can be very discouraging for staff, and morale can go down for staff if we don't delegate. HSP sometimes ignore problems, especially financial problems, and that can often lead to lack of energy if we just ignore everything. We put it aside, but in the back of our mind, the problems are still sitting there. Other responses, sometimes when you're not dealing with any stress and overstimulation, we try to suppress by overeating, maybe having several glasses of wine in the evening, drugs, over-exercising. Anything that you do like out of proportion can be a response to stress and trying to deal with stress. There are some common challenges that HSPs experience in business. And it's and really, in essence, my HSP clients face the same problems with their business and personal life as other people. There's sensitivity, doubt, fear. However, they experience them to a deeper and more emotional degree. And it's often, as an HSP, you feel like sometimes you're speaking a different language when you're communicating your problems. And being able to speak with a coach who is a highly sensitive person, who understands you, who gets you, where you don't have to explain things, can make a big difference for you and for your business. So environment is one of the challenges that we face. Noise, lights, smell, temperature. We also startle very easily, and some co-workers sometimes think that's very funny to startle you. In my opinion, and I experienced that, it's not funny, it's really bullying when you know that somebody is very uncomfortable with that. I mentioned before, being observed when performing a task can be very challenging for highly sensitive people. So having an office space that is more private, or just having the opportunity in between to close your door and doing things on your own can be very helpful for an HSP. Communication is often a challenge. As we overthink, we often read between the lines when there's nothing there. Yes, we're very good at picking up subtleties, but sometimes we overthink and we think they think that when they didn't think anything. Sometimes we take things too seriously and we become very defensive or too emotional. HSPs have this need for precise and very clear communication. And I have witnessed where people were talking, they used the same words, but the word had a different meaning for them. So they thought they were talking about the same, and they were just talking like this. And just sometimes slowing down and asking, okay, when you're using this word, what do you mean? Can you explain that? Will really help in this situation. Setting boundaries is very important for HSPs. They like to help pick up and most of the time you'll notice that all your co-workers or your staff come to you with their problems because of this empathy that HSPs have. There needs to be clear boundaries, otherwise you're taking care of everybody else and not yourself. HSPs also need to ask and feel comfortable to have specific needs met in their business and working with other business. Pace is a big problem for many of my coaching clients. They think they have to go at the same pace as everybody else. They notice some colleagues that go very fast, that can go. But HSPs have an innate need to, we need some breaks in between to calm our overstimulated nervous system down. If we take those breaks, we are able actually to focus and much more. And many of my clients, when they start slowing down, they report back to me that they get more work done because they are focused, they're not stressed, they're not overwhelmed. So find your own pace. Have a flexible structure for your business. HSPs really need time to process information before making a decision. So if you can have several short meetings where you can think in between, digest and process the information, and then maybe the next day make a decision, that it would be very beneficial for you and for your business. You may have noticed that you become paralyzed when you're rushed, when you are forced to make a decision now or to give an answer that you're like, oh my God, what should I do? You're trying to think and process all this incoming data, but you can't. It just takes time and energy. So sometimes saying, you know what, let me think about that, I'll get back to you, is one of the best things you can do for yourself as an HSP entrepreneur. And when we are regulated, we are in the flow and we get so much more done in a shorter period of time. It's really amazing. There's some common advice that HSPs get. The first one is accept. This is how business was always done. Just deal with it. And often the unspoken message is, we're not willing to change for one or two people in the organization. The other advice is just adapt. Check your feelings and your personality in the door, and then pick it up when you're going home. There is always this need to fit in, which just doesn't work for HSPs. It's like telling a person that has blue eyes to change their eye color. This is an innate trait. You can't change who you are. Yes, you can deal with the overstimulation that you experience, but you can't change the trait. Many people tell you, oh, just change, just be like everybody else in the workforce, like the 80%. And this is really the reason why many HSPs often change jobs, often resulting in feeling bad about themselves, like there's something wrong. Because other people stay in a job for 10, 15, 20 years. Why can't they just handle it? Why can't they just toughen it out? This often leads to early retirement, and many corporations and companies are losing really good talent because they are not taking care of their HSP employees. And I'm just curious, have you told yourself that as well, that you just need to accept what's going on in the business world, that you just have to adapt or change? And I'm just wondering, how is it working so far for everybody in the group?
I was just going to say, if anybody wants to say something too, they're more than welcome to unmute and they could say something. If not, I'll watch the chat too.
Okay. Okay, looks we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so the HSPs are like the canary in the mine. Any changes that you make in your business benefit others as well. If you have less noise, softer lights, equals stress reduction for everyone. Flexible hours creates happier staff, higher retention, and you may attract more new talent if you are more aware of highly sensitive people in your organization. Less stress equals also less sick leave, saving money. So there are some sensitive solutions. Okay, let me just move this. Accept that you can change who you are. This really shifts self-perception when people find out that they are a highly sensitive person, that there's nothing wrong with them, that this is just an innate trait, and this is as an aspect of who they are as a person. Often there needs some work to be done around feelings of being bullied in the past, feeling different, feeling weird, feeling too emotional and too sensitive. And I also work with my clients on reducing limiting core beliefs around being a highly sensitive person and not fitting in. When they start to embrace being a highly sensitive person, they start to learn about sensory processing sensitivity, then they start to accept it, to appreciate it, and they start to see the strengths that they have as a highly sensitive person. And this is an opportunity for self-awareness and personal growth. And then the next step is to apply what you're learning about yourself and about this innate trait. So then you start finding, and that's what I do with my clients mostly, is to find individual solutions to regulate the nervous system, like taking several breaks, working early or late, and finding really individual solutions. Working online could be an option. Like I created my business that I'm working online. I never wanted to have an office or a store. I've been always working online. You may want different hours that work for you. And also I remember taking a business course, and the first thing the person said to us is, take out your calendar and make a mark down when you want to be off, what is important to you. And I was like, really, lady, don't you know, in business, you have to work 24/7 for the rest of your life. But that's what I do every year now. I set the times that I want to be off, and it makes a big change for me. So this might be something that you would like to consider as well. One of my clients is a night owl. She always felt bad because she couldn't sleep during the night. Now she works a lot during the night and is very happy. It works for her. So be flexible to make adjustments and also accept help in your business. In my webinar, Strengths and Struggles of HSPs in Business, I offer more simple solutions for HSP employees. So how can you harness some of the sensitive strengths? And again, self-regulation is key. So when you're self-regulated, everything that was experienced as a weakness and expressed negative starts to shift into a positive outlook and is expressed as a strength. For example, depth of processing. If when you're overwhelmed, you're overthinking, you're over-worrying. If you're calm, you are wonderful at strategic planning and out-of-the-box thinking. Overstimulation often leads to procrastination. If you are well regulated, you are focused, motivated, and really able to stay on task. Emotional overreactivity and could lead to disconnection if you're dysregulated, but when you are regulated, then you're connecting with yourself and others. This, of course, increases self-confidence. Sensing the subtle can be very overwhelming, but when you're self-regulated, then your intuition comes in and it is very helpful in your business. And I'm sure you have experienced that too, when you're in the flow, how everything goes really well. It's easy to connect with others. It's really amazing. So those sensitive strengths really show up in yourself, in relationships, and in business. And some of the strengths that can be lived and expressed in the self is that I noticed in HSPs that they're very committed to personal and professional growth. They are multi-passionate. They're able to utilize different kind of information, and they are very open and curious about new things. Being able to experience that makes you feel more secure and capable. And when we accept who we are able to take action steps. In relationships, some of the strengths for highly sensitive people are there's what's called a mate sensitivity, but I also see that we can use it as a client sensitivity. HSPs are really able to quickly pick up what other people want and then to consistently provide it. For example, when I used to work in a restaurant, I had one couple, they always like to sit at the same table. They really liked having their water and wine there. They liked extra napkins on the table, and they liked, there was one more thing that I can't think of right now, but I got all those things ready for them and they just loved it. And I always got extremely good tips from them. So another strength of highly sensitive people is that we can quickly connect very deeply with other people. And our clear and precise communication is definitely a bonus in business. HSPs are very much able to understand other people's feelings. And when we are regulated, we do have a very great sense of humor. But when we are not, when we're dysregulated, we're not fun. But I'm sure you've experienced that. In business, some of the strengths that come out in a highly sensitive person is when they work in a really supportive environment with a flexible structure and schedule, out-of-box thinkers, very analytical and creative. This deep cognitive processing is so helpful in business. The ability to see pattern and trends really shines. HSPs are very conscientious. And they also, what I noticed is they're able to sense when there's something going on in a team. They can pick it up, and before it goes into a conflict, HSPs are often able to talk with other people, find solutions, so that there's not this big war going on in the workplace. Things that are really important for HSPs to set clear boundaries. HSPs, when they are regulated, are really very competent achievers. They're motivated, they're inspiring. They take the whole team along with them in friendly competitions. They are really informed trendsetters, and they can get a lot done in less time when they're focused. There's 4 must-dos for HSPs to reduce overstimulation. So it's reducing stress, like scheduling time off, plan your days off. So that's really important. Stress reduction is the #1 thing you need to do, and I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. You need to learn how to focus, set boundaries, and to appreciate your own accomplishments. HSPs are amazing, and noticing everybody else's accomplishments and praising them and letting them know and encouraging them. But we always underestimate our own accomplishments. We take our what we are good at, we take it for granted, but that's normal for us. I only realized that I always thought, I grew up knowing lots of flowers and names and trees and plants. That was normal for me. Only as an adult did I realize that many people just know maybe 5 or 6 or 10 flower names. For me, because it was always a competency, it was normal. And this is how it happens often to HSPs, that they really undervalue what they know, their talents and competencies. So how do you reduce stress? There's meditation, mindfulness, time in nature, journaling. You maybe do a gratitude journal, hobbies, and anything that you really enjoy that gives you pleasure is really wonderful. Time with animals reduces your stress. And I can't it's not a luxury, it's really a necessity. It's really important that you take care of yourself. Schedule time to walk, schedule time to exercise, schedule your breaks, because if you don't schedule those things, it's not going to happen, and you're going to work 12, 14 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week. I know, I'm doing the same sometimes, and I've done a lot over the years. Since I'm 16, I've learned and taught many different techniques like Reiki, energy healing, sound healing, And they led me to what I consider the most effective and most gentle tool for HSPs. And that's emotional freedom techniques. And I talk more about that in my Simple Steps to Reduce Stress webinar. But we did a part of tapping EFT already. It is a scientifically proven way to help us to deal with our stuck emotions as we tap on different meridian points on our body, like here. Signals are sent to our brain, which reduce stress, and then the body stops sending stress hormones, which help us to use parts of our brain which are shut off when we are stressed. So research shows that it reduces stress, insomnia, pain, depression, blood pressure, headaches, and it also increases happiness by 31%. So EFT really helps you to accept your feelings, process your feelings, reduce emotional overstimulation, and avert overreactivity, all the points that are problems for us as highly sensitive people. When I learned about being a highly sensitive person, that was in my early 40s, I really experienced a big shift, and suddenly I realized I wasn't the only one. I wasn't so weird, but I still felt different, and I still felt everything strongly. I still overreacted. I was still frequently overwhelmed, and I kept repeating the same negative thoughts and patterns of behaviors. So I knew that the awareness was great, but it wasn't enough. But then when I found EFT and started tapping on the overstimulation and the overwhelm, I really started to see big changes. I had more time where I wasn't overstimulated. I could get more things done. So through tapping, I really found my own solutions, let go of old core beliefs. And this is what I do with my clients. I help them to first reduce overwhelm and stress, and then we find solutions for them and their business. Any thoughts, any observations, any questions? And was this helpful? Do you think that this can help you in your business?
Yeah, there was a couple of comments in the chat. So Nicole said, my dog is a godsend. I have to walk him, and petting him is so soothing for me. Tamara said that is good advice to schedule breaks on the calendar or throughout the day. I do schedule them, but sometimes don't get around to doing it, but need to really practice this more. Tracy said, I agree, Tamara, great at scheduling things, but not very good at following my schedule. Same goes with making lists.
Yeah. It's sometimes, and this is where flexible structure comes in again. When you're in the flow and working on something and you're really excited, the alarm clock may turn you off, the alarm to take a break. So again, here it's like, okay, maybe I'll set my alarm for another half an hour and then I take a break. So being flexible is sometimes really uncomfortable for us, and we're not used to it. But it really helps to schedule those things. It makes a huge difference. And when you're feeling overwhelmed, just tapping and saying, you know what, I'm so overwhelmed right now. I was recently tapping with a client. They were so overwhelmed. They couldn't open a really important email. And then we tapped on that. They took care of that email. There was a deadline to it. They barely made the deadline, but they were so overwhelmed and overstimulated, couldn't deal with that email. It's crazy sometimes how it can affect us. All right. So if you want to break the cycle of emotional reactivity and understand yourself better as an HSP, and to release some limiting beliefs around business, I do offer a 6-week program starting in September. It's called Bigger, Bolder Business, where we look at negative core beliefs in business, reduce them. For example, I had a client in one of them, those webinar programs, that had a core belief that it was a danger to her life to speaking to strangers. Of course, and she experienced she was so anxious whenever she had to do a sales call for her business. When we found that core belief and we tapped on it, things started to change. They went out and spoke with more people, got more sales, got more confident. So that was really exciting to see how, when we look at old core beliefs, how our business can change as well. So any thoughts, any questions, any feedback?
Yeah, if anybody has anything that they want to say, they can unmute themselves, or you could put in the chat and I'll watch for it too. Karin, do you have your, oh, wait, I see your website is there. Do you have any contact information that you wanted to leave, an email or phone number or anything?
Can put it in the chat right now.
Sure.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Jessica said she has to leave for another meeting, but thank you very much for your presentation. Love learning more information about how I feel.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. It's very appreciated. I know it's your lunch break and we need our time alone. So I really appreciate everyone who came today to learn more about this.
For sure. And Tamara says thank you. So I say thank you very much for this great insight. I know you have a couple of other webinars that we talked about, so we'll have to get Karin back in here. It probably wouldn't be till fall because just with the summer we cut down on it. But anyways, we would love to have you back. And I thank you again for today's presentation. And I thank everybody for joining us today. And I'm always open to suggestions with speakers and topics. So just let me know. I'm making a difference at Faro.ca, and wishing everybody a great and wonderful day.
Thank you for having me, Lori, and thanks to everyone who came today.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.